Welcome to the Community Voice. I'm Fara Sachs. First, I'd like to thank our sponsor, Floridian Furniture, for today's episode as we host Searcy Law. And with me today is Boris Zhadanovskiy. How did I do?
It's Zhadanovskiy, but it's pretty close.
God. Well, welcome to the studio.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
It's nice, and you traveled far and long for us today. Did you pack your passport?
my Russian and U.S. passports.
Well, we're going to get to that. You're with the large attorney group in dealing with injury for Florida. You have specialties in car accidents and truck accidents, medical malpractice.
First of all, I practice with the law office of Searcy Denney Scarola Barnhart Shipley. We have a couple of offices these days, one in Tampa, Florida, Tallahassee, and certainly our largest office in West Palm Beach. And we specialize in all manner of personal injury, from your car accident, automotive accident, which is what we're here to speak about today, but all the way to medical malpractice, plane crashes, train crashes. If it involves an injured individual, we've probably either handled it before or willing to handle it going forward.
Oh, perfect. That's good. That's good to know. Well, let's back up. Let's back even further. You are from St. Petersburg, not Florida, St. Petersburg, Russia. So I want to hear about the humble beginnings, because it's really a love story. I would really see that with your mother involvement and how all that. Let's go back there, because I know people want to know about you first, and then we'll get into what you do, because people want to feel comfortable, especially if they're going to come to you for advice.
So it's a long story, and I can probably be here for the next hour talking about it. And it's an interesting story, but after a divorce, my mom decided that she was going to pick up her life, and she was going to move to the United States, the promised land. And as you see in movies, she came over here, not on a boat, but on a plane, with the clothes on her back and $100 in her back pocket, without knowing a single word of English. Obviously, New York, she traveled to New York, which has a Russian community, but she took those stereotypical night classes where you have the headphones on your head, and the instructor's telling you the words and it's being translated in your head, and
Wow.
You're sitting next to people speaking different languages, and she would do that during the night. And she worked as a live-in housekeeper for a family on, I believe it was Staten Island, but don't hold me to that. And eventually she moved down to Florida, and during this time I was still in Russia living with my grandparents, because she could not get me over here. It's a difficult process for one person, but it's even harder if you have kids. So eventually, 4 years later, she was able to bring me over here, and I lived in a single-parent household, but we were never felt it, so to say.
That's wonderful, and you really learned a lot of your work ethics probably from her.
She worked 3 jobs. When I first came over here, she was a housekeeper, a server at a local country club, and she worked at a hair salon cleaning up after the haircuts. So to say that she had a work ethic, a great work ethic, would be an understatement.
And you came to this country in 2000, correct?
Yes.
And you didn't speak a word of English.
Not a word.
Yes and no, right? I heard yes and no, the only things you understood.
That was yes. Yeah, that's a good
no.
way. That's a good way to describe it. No, I took the stereotypical ESOL classes.
But but where does Super Mario come into this? I'm sorry, you can run, but you can't hide.
Yeah, somebody gave you the scoop before I came here.
I'll never tell.
So it took me a couple years to get into the U.S. school system and start actually learning to speak the language, but I still remember my mom bought me a second-hand Super Nintendo, and it had the old Super Mario cartridge, and of course they don't speak the language, but it's all written it's all written with his little story or whatever it is. It's been years since I revisited those memories.
Do you still have the Nintendo?
No.
You know, it
No.
probably could be worth a lot of money, you know.
It could be worth a lot of money. No, I wish I did. That would have been great.
Maybe we wouldn't be even speaking today. So, and also you wrote about, you spoke about when you got into law, how you got into law, a pre-law advisor. Tell me a little bit that aha moment that you had about going into law and first you graduated from Florida State and you graduated top of your class. Congratulations.
Well, it wasn't top of the class. It was, what's it called? Magna cum laude. So it's towards the top. It certainly wasn't the top.
I'm being positive.
You know, the law has a special place in my heart because it's something that permeates every facet of life, no matter what you're doing. I mean, we practice in personal injury, dealing with injured individuals, even though we're not healing their bones because that's the doctor's job. You know, we're helping them on the back end. We're helping them deal with their insurance issues. We're helping them deal with their insurer and you know, the person that injured them, potentially their insurer. And I wanted to be, somehow I knew I wanted to be a part of that system. I didn't know at the time where exactly, whether it would be immigration law, whether it would be healthcare law, whether it would be something, but there are these mystical rules that not many people really grasp. And I wanted to help almost be a translator because it's a foreign language to most people. They simply don't have the need to learn it until it, you know, rear ends them. literally. And the beauty of what you bring to the table is not only do you speak English, but you speak Russian. So you're appealing to probably a clientele that's different than what most attorneys that do not speak, obviously, Russian, that can help. I think there's a cultural trust by being Russian and having a Russian client. Is that correct? I would certainly hope so. Yeah. I've had occasions in my practice representing people from all walks of life, all countries. I've represented individuals from Canada, Ireland, Russia, and certainly having that extra level of comfort of speaking their native language, even if they speak perfect English. Sometimes they prefer to speak in Russian. Mm-hmm. Sometimes there are certain things that they want to talk about. They're more comfortable in the language that they had originally learned, or the opposite. Maybe they don't speak any English and they need an attorney who's going to understand them, not through a middleman such as an interpreter, but is going to be able to understand, comprehend, and attempt to help them. A funny anecdotal story is that I was representing someone in the hospital and I got to know their doctor. And when the doctor had a Russian-speaking patient that spoke absolutely no English, he picked up the cell phone and he called me to translate for him to this patient to try to put her at ease. She was just in a traumatic event that occurred. And she didn't understand what was going on. She didn't understand what was happening. And she spoke absolutely no English. But that must have really made you feel good. I mean, that you're able to help in a situation other than what you do on your day job. You were a different cape at this time when you were helping the patient. It certainly was. And, you know, the doctor wasn't going to have me talk to her about her medical treatment or anything like that. But just to have somebody on the phone that spoke her language, just to tell her, you know, it's going to be okay. Yeah, absolutely. And I couldn't. It was touching that the doctor would remember me in that situation. First of all, because obviously I was a counsel for one of his other patients in an automotive case, but he remembered me. Got my cell phone from, I think, one of his acquaintances who knew me better, and called me and said, hey, I'm in this situation. Could you please help me? And that was probably a real coup and showing humanity amongst people. It was, and it was wonderful to be able to help in that way. Certainly, without any sort of, without any sort of heads up. so to say, just kind of out of the blue. It really was a wonderful moment, and I hope to have more of those.
Well, we hope that being here would do that for you. Let's talk about car collisions. Tell me some good tips if someone's involved. Let's get to what to do. Helpful tips and bringing that, and so our audience knows what to do. God forbid we're in a car collision.
Of course, and absolutely, God forbid that it occurs. But sadly, the state of Florida usually ranks amongst the top for automotive and vehicular collisions, and every collision is going to be different circumstances, different force acting on the body in the collision, different angle of impact. So these very basic ideas shouldn't be a rule book that you have to follow, and if you didn't follow it, you say, oh my gosh, I've really messed up. But if you're able to, one of the first things that you need to do is call emergency services, 911, dial 911, have them report to the collision site, fill out a report, start the investigation process, get witness information, get insurance information. Even though you can certainly do that on your own, they are more capable of doing it, and your primary concern should be about yourself. You were just involved in an automotive collision. You should be worried about your health, about your safety. You shouldn't be the investigator. But to that end, sometimes the police are not going to take photographs of the scene. They'll fill out an incident report. They'll get the witness information. They'll get some basic statements. But they're not going to do a full-blown investigation unless something extremely catastrophic has occurred, in which case they would do a homicide investigation. But with that being the case, if you're able to, if you feel up to it, if you haven't broken any bones, take photographs of the accident scene. Take photographs of the vehicle that hit you. Take photographs of your own vehicle. Sometimes those photographs will become the most important evidence in any potential litigation that may occur. And, the old saying, a picture is worth 1,000 words. You can describe what the damage looked like to the car, but a picture is going to show it even better.
And at what point does legal counsel step in if someone is injured and felt like it was a wrongdoing?
The most perfect advice is instantly.
And where would they call, Boris? Tell us where we would look this up. Searcylaw.com.
We make it very easy. You don't have to spell out all the partners' names. It is just searcylaw.com. And our phone number is 561-686-6300.
Say it again.
561-686-6300. And we are, again, I know I said this before, we're a very large law firm. There's always somebody sitting by the phone waiting to pick it up. We have a answering service after hours.
You also have when you go online, you also have a chat room. So if you have a legal question, you just type it in and someone will quickly respond back to you.
They will put you in touch with an attorney. So that's their job. They will likely not be able to answer your exact legal
Absolutely
question,
not, but put you in the right direction.
They will direct that question to an attorney that's going to be able to either help you in your legal matter or at least give you some advice as to where you should go if it's not something that we handle.
And what about leaving the scene? Should you leave the scene of a collision once this is all done? What would before the police arrive?
Absolutely not.
I like this. So far, it's been absolutely not. I love it. I'm leading the witness. I love that. Absolutely not. Not.
So when the police arrives, they are more than likely going to take statements from first of all, the people that are involved in the incident, the person that hit you, the person responsible, and then yourself. If the person responsible for it says, oh, I'll take care of it. When the police arrive, I'll let them know exactly what happened. You run the risk that they are going to write the narrative that they want. And it may be pessimistic to think that they may not be completely truthful, but they will certainly try to spin it in a way that's most favorable to them.
There's like 3 sides to the story, right?
There'll be 5 sides to the story. No, it is extremely important that you hang out at the accident scene, until the police arrive, until the statements are taken. If you're able to take the photographs, and the police will release you. It's even more important if you feel that you're injured at the incident scene and the responding officer asks you if you need medical attention. Don't try to be the hero. Don't try to be tough. Then is the time to ask for assistance. If you feel like you need to be checked out, wait till the EMS arrives. Get checked out. If you need to go to the hospital, to the emergency room, go to the emergency room. It is extraordinarily important that you are aware of your body in that instant. So a lot of people say, well, I'm going to sleep it off. I'm in a ton of pain, but I'm going to sleep it off. It rarely gets better that quickly. In most cases, either the next day or the very next day, the pain will become intolerable. It sets in, the adrenaline wears off. It is one of the most common things that I hear in my practice. I didn't get checked out by EMS, but 3 days later I had to go to the ER because I couldn't bear anymore. That's a completely normal occurrence.
And in that case, if you're able to speak at the time of the accident, should you call your friend? Should you phone your husband, your wife, and have them come to do some of this legwork, having this conversation maybe before, God forbid, I'm in a car accident, we should have this checklist of things to do?
Absolutely. If you have the resources to do that, if you have somebody that is able to come out to the scene quickly, give them a call. They're going to be in your corner. They're going to be looking out for your interests.
So then there's only 3 sides to the story then, instead of 5.
Well, there's always eyewitnesses, and a lot of the times eyewitness testimony can be contradictory to each other because people see it from different angles, and they bring in some of their own biases and their own understanding of how things occur, which is perfectly normal, which is why it is so important to have the photographic evidence.
And you've stressed that so many times during our time together. So I guess take the pictures, pull out the cell phone.
Absolutely. And I mean, if you have a dash cam, save the dash cam footage. I know that is not a common practice in the United States as a whole to have dash cams. But
aren't the police are the only ones that usually have it, right?
Usually, but they arrive after the accident occurs.
But I'm saying for us to have our own dash cams?
Sure. Absolutely. You see the YouTube videos of all of the dash cam footage, and it all comes out of Russia, and they all have it for a reason.
Boris, are you part of this?
Certainly, I don't get paid by the dash cam companies to promote it.
Yes, but what an insightful idea! I'd never thought of that.
Well, and it does cut both ways. If you're at fault for the accident, then there's going to be footage of you being at fault for the accident. So it depends on what kind of driver you are, I guess.
I'll tread gingerly on that one. Should I contact my insurance company?
You should notify them as quickly as possible of the claim for a couple of reasons. In the state of Florida, at least currently, if you have an insurance policy, you're going to have what's called personal injury protection, or what we refer to as PIP. And that is going to be your primary medical coverage for the first $10,000 in most cases. It depends on your policy. It is incredibly important that you notify your insurance company that you were involved in an incident. It is incredibly important that you notify your insurance company that you're seeking medical treatment so that they can start receiving the bills and paying those bills out on your behalf. I would be weary of sharing too much information with your insurance company right off the bat as it relates to the magnitude of the incident before getting an attorney. My best practice tip I could say, and nothing that we're going to talk about today is going to replace this, reach out to an attorney. Talk to an attorney. Get somebody with your interest that has an ethical obligation to do what's right by you, because the insurance company does not have that.
Yeah, and so what does it cost to speak to a personal injury attorney regarding this car incident, collision accident?
That's a question that even my own wife asked me.
She wants to buy more dash cams, probably. All around the house.
And I was I was floored to know that she did not know the answer to this question originally. When it comes to personal injury claims, and especially I can speak from my own law firm, but a lot of personal injury law firms have a similar structure. There is absolutely no cost for a consultation. There's absolutely no cost for them to investigate your case. If there is no recovery, then there is no fees or costs to the client. And we do that for a reason. Most injured people are not in a financial situation at the time of the incident to pay an hourly fee to an attorney. It would be unfair and impractical to charge them on an hourly basis right after they were rear-ended by another person, or we practice in other areas such as medical malpractice. It would be impractical to charge someone after they lost a loved one due to the negligence of a medical provider. So the way that our contract is structured is called a contingency fee agreement, and the contingency is only triggered if we make a recovery on your behalf, and then our fees and costs come out of that recovery. Now, it's certainly not as simple as that, but if you come to us, the consultation is going to be free. The discussion with the attorney is going to be free. The meeting is going to be at no cost to you. We will discuss the contract. We will see if we can help you. And if we can't, then the only thing you've spent is your time.
Absolutely. And one last question. What has been the most riveting or important case that you've had that you're able to talk about, and how maybe that impacted your life and moving forward?
So the majority of our cases result in confidential resolutions. There are attorneys in our law office that have handled high-profile cases that have hit the news boards, and certainly they probably have better stories than I do, but I do have one case that is near and dear to my heart. It involved a unfortunate individual who was on a motorcycle, and somebody made a left turn in front of him on a it was an unprotected intersection. There's no lights, so it's really somebody not using their best judgment decided right now is a good time to make a left turn. The motorcyclist hit the vehicle, went airborne, hit the curb with a lot of force, and his body was absolutely ravaged, and he had sustained a what's called a traumatic brain injury, a closed head traumatic brain injury. So he didn't have a fractured skull, but his brain got knocked around hard enough to cause permanent and palpable objective damage. And this family came to us right after getting out of the hospital. They didn't know what to do. They had, they knew they had some health insurance, but they had out-of-pocket expenses, and they didn't know what was going to happen. And to back it up a little bit, his parents approached us. He was not in any capacity or shape to really talk about it, to be able to make the decisions on his own. So his parents came to us, concerned for their son, rightfully so. And I personally represented him for several years. And we were able to make a tremendous recovery on his behalf. We were able to put it into what's called a special needs trust, which protects his assets and acts as a fiduciary to him to make sure that he does not make any poor financial choices. So it kind of adds a little additional check and balance to make sure that he's using his money wisely. And that's something that he and his parents wanted to make sure that happens. So now his parents are no longer worried about how their child is going to live the rest of his life, because he may be able to work somewhat, but he's never going to be able to work in any capacity that will be able to support him independently. And that was their primary concern, rightfully so. I think any parent would share in that concern under that situation. And we were able to make it happen. And that was one of the most wonderful feelings, and that's really what we specialize in.
And this is really probably why you do your work, why you do what you do.
Absolutely. No, there's absolutely no doubt that our job as personal, even though people give personal injury attorneys a bad name, there's all sorts of jokes about personal injury attorneys, but there's nothing more humbling than somebody coming to your office after an absolutely tragic event that has changed their lives. They went out to work one day and they never came home. A loved one never came home, or they ended up in the hospital. They ended up here and there, and they have so many questions, so many concerns, and you're able to, in the beginning, alleviate some of those anxieties. Tell them, as I said before, that it's going to be all right, that we will take care of it. Your job is to go to your physician's appointments. Your job is to get better physically. We'll handle all of the insurance information. We'll handle the investigation. We'll handle talking to the police. We'll handle whatever needs to be handled so that you don't have to worry about it. And that is incredibly satisfying at the end of the day. It really is.
I want to thank you. I want to thank you for this opportunity to sit together and chat. And if people need more information and want to learn more, they go to searcylaw.com.
One word, Searcy Law, SEARCYLAW.
And the phone number again,
561-686-6300.
Boris, I want to thank you, and thank you for making the time. And I hope you come back and we talk about medical malpractice, because we touched on it very little, but I want to hear more and how we can help educate our audience.
There's some interesting topics and there's some not so interesting topics. So we'll try to select the ones that people actually want to hear about.
I'm looking forward to it, mostly to educate our public.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for this time. And I want to thank you for tuning in to the Community Voice. And we're thanking Boris and hope to see you again. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, podcasts. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.